Suzette Martin and was carried out between 10 p.m. on September 26th and 2 a.m. on September 27th. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service remains resolute in its mission to eradicate gang violence and criminal activities, both within and outside the prison system, to ensure public safety. A 79-year-old Cedrus man has been sentenced to 5 years in prison for the sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl in August 2023. Despite his stage 4 cancer, he was convicted and ordered to register as a sex offender by Justice Lisa Ramsamir Hines. Originally facing 17 years, his sentence was reduced due to mitigating factors, including a guilty plea. The judge emphasized that his actions could not be excused by his illness. 3 police officers from the Central Division have been detained over their alleged involvement in the kidnapping of a Canopia used car dealer. Officers from the Professional Standards Bureau and the Anti-Kidnapping Unit made the arrest on October 2nd. Investigators believe the officers used a marked police car to abduct Sashal Kangabihari on September 25th. Although ransom of $500,000 was paid, Kangaberry remains missing. The investigation is ongoing, and Deputy Commissioner Suzette Martin confirmed the case is in a sensitive stage. Public confidence has been shaken as police involvement in the crime is under scrutiny. The Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce has expressed disappointment with the 2024-2025 budget for not addressing the Tobago House of Assembly's debts to contractors and businesses affected by the February 7th oil spill. Chamber President Curtis Williams stated the $59 billion package sparked mixed reactions in Tobago's business community. While welcoming the government's plans for VAT payment relief, tax amnesty, and improvements in tourism infrastructure, Williams stressed the urgent need for the THA to settle its outstanding payments. He said resolving these debts is essential for the island's economic growth. Internationally, Tuesday night's vice presidential debate between Republican J.D. Vance and Democrat Tim Walz was a calm and policy-driven discussion, contrasting the heated presidential debates earlier this year. The candidates spent most of the 90-minute debate attacking each other's running mates rather than each other. Walz found his rhythm on topics like abortion and the Capitol riots, while Vance, a polished speaker, maintained a polite and humble demeanor, framing Trump's presidency in a positive light. Despite some disagreements and brief microphone issues, the debate remained even-tempered, with moments of mutual agreement between the two. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Well, coming out of budget day and all of the reporting, it might be easy to forget that just because something important is happening doesn't mean that other things fall by the wayside and get suspended, put on hold until we could get back to our regularly scheduled current events. Crime waits on no one. Other important happenings in the country waits on no one. But the thing is, crime was expected to play a part, at least, in this budget presentation. Yes, the budget is not all about crime, but one of the things with the budget is this is what we did. And then, obviously, the other part of a budget presentation is this is what we're going to do. And it is one of the main feature addresses that the government has to the nation, which is interesting given the fact that it's not actually the Prime Minister giving it. But this is one of the main ways a government will communicate its vision, its ideology, its strategies. And I don't know if it's a quirk of the news cycle trying to accommodate the budget reporting and the analysis and the various opinions and what have you. And of course, all of the small things to break down will have its own stories, because it's not as though we had a very cohesive whole of a budget. Once again, the cohesion is very basic. And when you look at some of the news stories this morning, let's just say the TTPS does not come out looking good, regardless of how much weight you give each individual story and the veracity of it, you know, the accuracy of it. Police kind of not looking so good this morning in the news cycle. And it makes me wonder to what extent. Listen, I mean, the opposition tried to say the budget has a lot of mama guy. I get it. I understand them saying that. One would hope that at the very least, if you lack substance, you would at least try to be less obvious and do a better job at mama guying us. Because very little was said to even give any sort of reason, no matter how much we might then have to stretch what you give us, to say, hey, they have a plan, or, okay, maybe not a plan, they have an idea, okay, maybe not an idea, they have a working part of a theory, okay, maybe not even a theory, they are trying to figure out something. We're not necessarily even getting that. One would think, given that this budget seemed to be more of a PR exercise than an actual budget presentation, at least be better at that. But politicians locally tend to not really understand good public relations. And I'm not talking about spin. They try to spin, but the funny part about it is the spin usually is amateurish at best. Which is why what ends up happening is, note when they stop talking, when they stop talking to the media, when they stop taking interviews, when they stop making appearances, which I'll say this to all the members of the media. Yes, we should provide a platform for people holding office to air their point of view. This is why we're doing what we're doing. Give them a chance to defend their position. But if they don't want to do it, technically speaking, it makes our lives easier, because since they don't want to be a part of the process and give their position, we could speculate what it might be, but then speculation could go in multiple directions. It's not all going to be positive speculation. It'll be negative speculation as well, to present all the possibilities. And then they will complain about it. But at the end of the day, we don't have your position. So how are we supposed to present it as your position? How are we supposed to present the truth, or as you would put it, regardless of if the public would believe it or not? It's easier for us because then we don't have to bother trying to entertain your point of view. We could provide possibilities, good and bad, but we don't have to entertain you. It makes our job easier if we are willing, but we have to be responsible when speaking on these matters. And with regards to the whole situation with crime, part of dealing with crime is the perception of dealing with crime. Because part of it, like the economy, it's our confidence. If the public is confident, then not only will they feel safer, but also the criminal elements will potentially also have a perception that it's not as easy to get away with crime. And that would contribute to reducing crime. It might be a small contribution, it might be a big contribution. That's an intangible thing, but something that could be very valuable at the end of the day. It could encourage more officers to not stray from the straight and narrow, more citizens to report and to provide evidence. The thing is, a couple of quotes here. The first one from Dean Rusk, former U.S. Secretary of State. The best way to persuade people is with your ears, by listening to them. And the thing about it is, I do wonder, it's almost like if they were listening, but they weren't really listening. They heard what they wanted to hear. Oh, crime is important? Okay, we'll say a few things about crime. And then, oh, we sell in the refinery, don't worry. Public servants getting a $2 increase on the minimum wage. Don't worry. Vote for us. We're taking you seriously. What we need to say some things about crime. Go back in the archives. What did they say? Okay, buy boats, buy cars. All right, we did more officers last year, so we can't necessarily say that again. But we could mention some of the things that we did, right? Don't mind. We're not results. What? Don't worry about results. Let's not, don't sweat the small stuff. And it seems as though they're not listening. To be fair, are we speaking out enough on crime? I know there was people protesting in front of the Red House on Budget Day. To some extent, that is, with regards to the budget, that's kind of too late. Are you really going to affect the budget? Unless the whole country descended on the Red House and, you know, we're talking people just flooding the streets, not just next to the Red House, but beyond, going for blocks beyond, you know, congesting all of Port of Spain. Yeah, well, then at that point, maybe that might be enough for them to make last-minute changes, panic a little bit. But if you're just outside the Red House protesting, whatever you have to say ain't going to affect the budget. That's the problem. That's why waiting for the election and then saying, oh, we have no one to vote for. Well, it's too late by then. You were supposed to try and be involved from the primaries, or our versions of it, the internal elections. So like I said, it seems like they're mamagaying us, but the thing is they're getting away with not even great mamagay. And you know, for the last couple of years, the PNM keeps talking about, oh, 60 years, so this is what we did, and Eric Williams and Patrick Manning. Don't mind that the current administration, when it was ready, was undermining, well, not all of the members of the current administration, but the leadership was undermining its predecessor. To what degree, I leave for your ascertainment to insert for yourselves. But now he's lauded, oh, look at what the PNM did, right? Look at what the PNM did. We had a contractor bemoaning about some of the practices under Mr. Manning's regime. And we have the same contractor bemoaning some of the contracts being awarded under the Keith Rowley administration. The thing is, PNM has a reputation, good and bad, because we have callers that point out they blame the PNM for most of the country's situation because that's the price you pay when you're in charge most of the time. You're more responsible than the other guy. Can't argue that. The thing is, I wonder if they ever took this into consideration. It's a harsh reality of anybody in public life or a leadership position, or having a brand or trying to build a brand. And the PNM is proud of their brand, right? Should they be? Because Warren Buffett said it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. I don't think they think about that. It might have taken 60 years to build PNM's reputation. Well, it took a little longer than 5 minutes, but in the age of our country, these last couple of years might be more than 5 minutes, right? But, you know, we get what we pay for. And we like freeness. So one could argue, given our propensity for freeness, we like cheap things. Therefore, we like cheap governments. Unfortunately, quality usually doesn't come with cheapness. Sean Michael Smollett, this is Talking Point on WESN, the content capital. And the reason why I started off the show like this today is because, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, police kind of not looking good if you read multiple stories in the papers today, in court, reports from the PCA, and I don't know if, again, the timing to the budget, did the budget kind of just cause all of these things to get pushed back until they all got reported on the same day? Is it that somebody wanted these stories out right after the budget? Because given the lackluster budget, particularly for national security, to me, it's not a good look that now there's a lot of questions on professionalism and even ethics. Hell, even some of the members of the TTPS themselves are concerned about the service looking bad due to some of the actions of their peers. And you would have seen some of these stories even yesterday on our News on the Hour. But with that said, let's get into the details after the break. Stay tuned. This is Talking About on WSN. We'll be right back after this.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus, quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
All right, time to start off today's daily review. First story I want to get to, one that has me greatly concerned, because in the past I said that the gender-based violence unit was maybe one of the bright spots of the TTPS, and now that has come under question after the Police Complaints Authority has issued their Domestic Violence Report 2024. And some of the criticisms are kind of rough. Now, not only do they have situations with the PCA criticizing the TTPS's handling of domestic violence cases, right, which includes several women that had complaints against abusers who were killed before their cases were resolved. But beyond just general cases that involve civilians and their partners, they also had cases that included members of the police service. One case that was highlighted in one of the news reports in the story speaks of a situation where a woman was abused in a manner that is most graphic. I don't think I could say how she was physically assaulted, and one could argue it was physical assault plus sexual assault at the same time. If you didn't read it in, that's to tell you what kind of assault it was. But this is a second woman involved with an individual who is a policeman, where apparently his previous partner died by allegedly lighting herself on fire. That's such a coincidence that his previous significant other would apparently commit suicide by fire. But this situation now, there are allegations of domestic violence. Psychological abuse being the least of the current significant others' concerns. And there were others where it seemed as though there was one situation where apparently the investigators took a year to actually speak to the alleged perpetrator, the accused. This is after handling the alleged victim, her testimony, her situation in a most curious manner. She gave a witness statement, no follow-up was done to clarify what was going on. So then when the police, a year later, apparently, spoke to the accused, they asked him about the wrong date. He was able to provide an alibi because I guess in part it was the wrong date. And then they proceeded to provide him with, I believe, the reports, and let me just get it. They were quite helpful with providing copies of the duty diary to produce to support his alibi because, again, he was questioned about the wrong dates. And there are other reports about police officers involved situations that were not handled well, or non-police officer civilian cases where it's questionable. And now this puts a stain on the gender-based violence unit. One daily newspaper attempted to get comment from the new head of the unit. No comment was forthcoming. I do wonder if this is an example of why a change in leadership may or may not necessarily be the best thing. Although some of these cases might not be on this unit per se, I mean, I'm not entirely sure, right? How was these domestic violence cases? Who specifically handled them? You could probably go into the report. There's a part of me that doesn't even want to, I'll be honest, because this is supremely disappointing. That there's the police, what do the police say? Generally speaking, the media ambassadors, most of whom are not involved in this, but the media ambassadors, what do they say? We need victims to come forward. But now we have examples where victims come forward and essentially either at best their case is mishandled, at worst they are, well, in the middle they are victimized, and at worst they end up dead. And this is, again, this is within the same week of the budget where we're supposed to feel happy about the direction of the country, right? Because we're going in a direction. Someone please tell me what that direction is, because it ain't looking so hot right now. And that's without even going back to all the criticisms of the budget itself that we had with regards to digitization, with regards to where we're going to find enough revenue to deal with our deficits, with regards to how we're going to have enough economic growth or economic prosperity to save off going to junk bond status, etc., etc., etc. But that's the first story. Let's move on to the second one. Oh, wait. Well, yeah, let's move on to the second one. I don't want to get into the other parts of this. The more egregious story, and to some extent, you know, it's a toss-up. 3 police officers were arrested because of their involvement, apparently, with a businessman's kidnapping. Now, the ransom has apparently already been paid, and currently the officers, at least one of them, is trying to, well, let me not say trying. He is helping police try to find the missing businessman. And one of the interesting things with the reporting of this story is apparently officers speaking on condition of anonymity have concerns with how this makes the police look, because the reason why these police officers were arrested, apparently they used an official state police vehicle to stop the gentleman, the victim, the kidnapping victim, at 5 p.m. on September the 25th, forced him into the police vehicle and took him to parts unknown currently. And essentially, they were arrested because the investigating officers from the Professional Standards Bureau and the Anti-Kidnapping Unit, I believe in some part, traced back the involvement of the officers through the use of an official police vehicle. Just think about it, right? On one hand, you have police officers involved in domestic matters. It's their domestic matters, so obviously they're not going to treat with it in the most professional way. There's obvious conflicts of interest there. This is different. This is outright being involved, allegedly, in a crime that technically might not even have anything to do with them. It's not like they have a domestic connection or some personal motive, apparently, with this. And I don't even know where to go from here. Kudos to the PSB and the Anti-Kidnapping Unit for dealing with the officers involved. That actually, I would say, is a good mark on the police. It's a good sign. But what's a bad sign is the fact that apparently they thought 3 officers now. We ain't talking about one rogue cop going on his own. 3 officers apparently thought, hey, we could use our official car to do something shady and get away with it. Now, I don't know if it started with an outright kidnapping for ransom, but that's where it reached. That's where it reached, and a ransom was even paid. So again, 3 officers in custody. This is crazy. I don't even know what to make of this situation, because as Keaton would always say about murders and other crimes, well, this is the one that we know of. The funny thing about the TTPS trying to say major crimes are down that are reported. What is reported and what actually happens, those are 2 separate figures. And what actually happens tends to be larger. It's not going to be smaller. And then, at best, you could try to estimate what that figure would be. This is a case that we know of. How many more cases like this? Doesn't have to be all the way for kidnapping for ransom, but you live long enough, you talk to enough people, not even necessarily police officers, but just people in general, you'll hear a few things. You'll hear a few things about police involved with allowing suspects to escape from road checkpoints when they're being cordoned off, when they're being actively searched for, about police shooting incidents. You'll hear a few things. I hope that all of the officers that have concerns about how this will make the service, and by extension, them look, I hope they take this seriously and understand that we need a stronger internal enforcement arm of the police, or a stronger overseeing investigative body for the police. I don't know if the PCA has enough teeth. And we need the police executive to take this situation more seriously, and the politicians to take this situation more seriously, because this has happened under the watch of this administration. And like I said, it's not one incident. Only a naive person is going to say, well, there's only one incident. It's one incident where one group got caught. If 3 officers could make this foolish of a decision, you don't think more officers can? Again, the perception of our situation is not a good one. The perception of our situation is we have corruption all the way to the top. How much you determine that to be is your individual determination. But very few people outside of the most diehard supporters will say that those in Parliament, their hands are clean. So why are we going to expect now that police officers are going to be like, well, you know, we have to uphold the highest traditions of honor and integrity of the country and follow the example. The examples are bad. The perception is bad. And going to this extent, that's a next level. That's a new low, I think. Maybe not. We already had other allegations of either fake police or maybe real police masquerading as fake police, or in one case, Defense Force soldiers being involved in a home invasion, and nothing comes out of it. It took months for that reckless driver in the Defense Force, in the Army, the regiment, to finally, I believe, be handed over to the police authorities, because I'm pretty sure there's nothing in the laws that says the regiment has the right to investigate and arrest soldiers committing crimes against civilians. All right. Let's take a next break. When we come back, conversation continues. Stay tuned.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios. But they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and, I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe in different criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we can't go a week, well in this case half a week, without bringing back my co-host, the original, the one and only. You know him, you love him, please love him. Mr. Keaton Shah!
Yeah, I hope they do love me, actually. Good morning,
I hope so too. Now, heavy topic this morning, a lot of bad press for the police, a lot. But I want to switch gears. I want to lighten the mood just a little bit, at least to start off. I haven't been keeping track of this whole situation, but from what I've read, this made front page news in one daily newspaper this morning. and that is there was a power outage that affected the competitive integrity, at least according to some fans, of the CPL game that just so happened to involve the Trinidad Knight Riders. I don't know, Keaton, could you, because I am not a cricket fan enough to know exactly how the power outage affected the game. Could you please describe to me what went on in a show?
Are you sure that you're trying to lighten the mood by discussing this?
I mean, you have a good point. It's lighter than what I was speaking about before. But just what happened? Exactly why did this power outage affect the game?
Okay, so honestly, now I've been viewing the tournament from the very, very beginning, from the first ball that was bowled. I absolutely love cricket, but this tournament in particular had quite a bit of controversy. 2 weeks ago, the controversy surrounded TKR playing the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. I think that was right here in Trinidad. That was one game that I did not attend in Trinidad. I viewed it on television. And there was a lot in respect to what transpired there, the umpiring, the decision-making, and even the interpretation as it relates to the rules of the game. Now, I did have Andrew Batiste on the program the following day, I believe. We discussed that. And, you know, we moved on. I mean, the tournament goes on. We moved on. TKR qualified for the playoffs. They finished third in the table before the playoffs, and you know, things were starting to look okay. We played Guyana on Sunday, very, very competitive game, and that in itself was very exciting leading up to the game that happened on Tuesday. Now, what happened, Sean Michael Small? The game is constituted of 20 overs aside. It's a T20, 2020. So 20 overs constitutes one innings. Each team gets to bat one, to bowl once. TKR actually was batting first. It was the eliminator match. In other words, whoever won the game progresses. Whoever lost, they go home. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
After 19.1 overs, 19 overs and one ball was bowled, meaning 5 balls were left. All of a sudden, I think the Knight Riders were 168 for 3 at that point. The lights, I think if it was not 2, it was 3 of the floodlights malfunctioned, which, you know, of course, on television, it looked as though you could have still played the game on the field because the brightness of the camera, the drone shot, whatever it is, it still looked as though it could have been played. According to the umpires, it was not safe. I think TKR decided, no, I don't think we want to continue. Let's walk off the field. And there was a lengthy delay. Now, Sean, just to add to this, what was really funny is that a few hours prior to this happening, a few minutes before this happened, there was a lengthy interview with the president of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, who was actually boasting about Guyana's development and all that they're doing and all that they were able to achieve and all that they are achieving, which is great, by the way. That's good. That in itself is marketing for Guyana. But after having that interview and discussing all the development, bam, that happens. Now, Guyana, if you've ever been, is notorious for power outages. Not trying to be offensive to the Guyanese people, please do not take offense to that, but I have been there. They're notorious for power outages. You would think in a match of this particular level, there would always be standby options, but honestly, you can never tell what happens. That being said, with all that explanation out the way, TKR went off the field with 5 more balls to go, and there was a lengthy delay. I think the delay, if I'm not mistaken, was over an hour and a half. You know, in fact, I kept switching between the debate between Vance and Walls and this CPL game to try and see what's going on, what's happening. Nothing happened. So, 10:52. Now, I just need to read for you, Sean, from CPL, the statement that they released yesterday. Initially, a cutoff time of 10:52 for the start of a minimum 5 over innings. which is required to constitute a game. In other words, if that did not happen, TKR would have won the game, right? Was communicated to broadcast. This was subsequently revised to 11:01. So they're reporting to the audience who is viewing on television that at 10:52, that was the minimum start time required for a 5-over inning. Sorry, that was the start for a minimum of 5 overs, not a minimum start time. The start for a minimum of 5 overs. However, this was changed to 11:01, and everybody was absolutely confused because when 10:52 arrived, everyone was expecting, okay, TKR would be declared winners at that particular point. How did it reach to 11:01? So what they were saying is that that extra 9 minutes was actually allocated or allowed for the interval between innings, which had not initially been included, which I still don't necessarily understand. I still can't comprehend. I followed the game. That's still very confusing to me. Eventually, power was restored at 10:51. 1 minute before the cutoff time, power was restored. They made allowance for enough time. They decided that the game would restart. When the game restarted, Barbados had to make 60 runs. It's called the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern method, or DLS, which calculates the amount of runs required by a team in a reduced over game. For whatever the reason, it's mostly used for inclement weather, but in this particular case, it was malfunction stadium lights. Barbados has to make 60 runs from 5 overs. What was even more controversial is, how do you allow 2 overs of power play in a 5-over game? And Sean, I don't know if you'll be familiar with the power play, but just explain to viewers. You're in a power play. There's a 30-yard circle from the pitch to the outfield, and that is marked by just a white circle, right? The on the field that indicate that only 2 fielders out of your you got 10 outfield players, because you've got you've actually got 9 outfield players, because you have the bowler and then you have the wicket keeper. From the 9 outfield players, only 2 are allowed outside that particular circle. Usually in a 20-over game, that power play consists of 6 overs. I don't understand how in a 5-over game you have a power play of 2 overs. I would have understood if it was 1 over, but it came down to 2 overs of power play. And at the end, 60 runs in 5 overs in a T20 game is not difficult at all. At that point, we understood it was a disadvantage to TKR, and, well, they lost in the end. But understand, the controversy surrounding this is ridiculous. And it seems as though the umpiring or the decision-making, the refereeing throughout this tournament has been absurd. And that is why a lot of Trinbagonians are essentially saying, hold up, it seems as though that there's a conspiracy against TKR and everything worked against them. It seems as though they were set up to fail in this tournament. We could discuss TKR's performance, which has been appalling at times. Honestly, the coaching has been ridiculous. The decision-making has been, I don't know, even the cricketers at times or the coaching staff were just, I don't know, the vision was obscured, but that's a different topic. Overall, Sean, it was hell what happened. TKR fans would have just been distressed and very, very angry. And if you saw the comments on social media, crazy.
The thing is, they needed to allow Barbados. I would have said, if they allowed the game to conclude with essentially Barbados not getting a chance to bat, that would be equivalent to TKR's opportunities, right? I would have said, all right, yeah, that's not a good look. The problem is Barbados got, by your accounts and what it seems, I think, to be the consensus, an advantage situation. And that's what I don't understand. We're not talking about inclement weather. At the end of the day, why we have a power situation, so we want to have shortened overs? Why do that? How does that allow for competitive integrity? If this was a regular season game, fine, because you tend to not want to pull out all the stops. So we're talking about an elimination part of the playoffs, essentially. So this win or go home part, this is basically the stakes of the whole season on the line for both of these teams. And I think that what I just said there, Barbados should have been allowed to bat for the same number of attempts Because isn't T20 essentially the same number of attempts both sides have to bat?
At that point, Sean, there is a cut of time for the game of play. I mean, the CPL has also done a lot, and they're saying that they're following the ICC rules, which is why I had a conversation with Andrea Batista a couple of weeks ago in respect to the umpiring decision, right? And at the end of the day, you have to respect the umpire's call. You have to, but it's very, very controversial, and need I say it's very unfair. You couldn't allow, put it this way, you couldn't allow Barbados to bat the 20 overs at that time. That game would have gone on until near 1 o'clock, if not after 1 o'clock in the morning, if that was the case, right? So it actually was not going to happen, because bearing in mind, it's not just timing, it's also markets, it's also markets, because, we're not just aiming for the Caribbean market, we're also aiming for the Indian markets as well.
Keaton, I understand that, but look at the alternative. The alternative is, because here's the thing, they might have done everything right in good faith, but the perception, at the end of the day, even if they did everything right, they are perceived to have done something shady or something wrong, and you get the same negative result. Whereas, I get it, maybe at that point, then you say, we have to replay the game, or we have to start the game on a different day. Both alternatives are imperfect, but at least you have the basis of equality. Might not necessarily be fair, but then again, the restart could affect both teams. I remember in the Super Bowl, power went out. They did not shorten the game, right? And the Super Bowl is not necessarily a short game to begin with. It's on a Sunday night. Yes, there were concerns about the markets or whatever, but they understood that, look, for the competitive integrity of the game has to play out. And even then, there were concerns by the eventual winners. Hey, this is robbing us of our momentum. I get that. There's debates for that as well, that TKR had momentum going in, and this completely robbed them of that as well. Which
actually, Sean, that's a very good point. TKR had a lot of momentum going into this game, following a great victory over Guyana on Sunday. At one point, we thought we were going to win the game within the confines of allowing us to finish in the top two. It didn't happen in the end because of the point system and because of how it's calculated. But they had a lot of momentum. In fact, Nicholas Puran seems to have been clicking at the right time. People were criticizing his scores, but he just seemed to be clicking at the right time. Even Terrence Hines, who has not had the best of seasons, had an excellent game on Sunday. Heading into this game, Nicholas Puran ended on 91 runs. He was also denied the opportunity to make a century. So you have to feel it for him there as well. But understand this, it's not a matter of crying over spilled milk. It's a matter of the rules of the game, how the match officials are deciding the outcomes. And apart from that, understand that if the rules were reversed, and if it was Barbados batting first and TKR having to come in and make 60 runs from 5 overs, I still, in my opinion, on the basis of having a fair game, I would have thought that was unfair. As much as I back TKR, I'm a Trinbagonian all the way, no matter what. As much as I back TKR, it still would have been frustrating for me that in a game of this significance and capacity, that it boils down to that. Last night, St. Lucia played Guyana. Very good game of cricket. St. Lucia, by the way, have been excellent this tournament, and I'm pretty certain they're favourites to win the finals on Sunday. But inclement weather impacted upon the game. And that game also came down to the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern method. In the end, St. Lucia won by 15 runs because of that calculation, right? Inclement weather stopped the play of game. Guyana had batted, I think, 13 overs. Guyana had batted 13 overs, which is more than half of their batting innings. TLS dictated at the end of the day that St. Lucia progressed because they won by 15 runs, according to that particular method. That's inclement weather. But when you've got a game of this particular magnitude, right, when you've got an eliminator, when you've got a playoff, it goes back to what you're stating. If this was normal league,
yes,
it would have been more understanding. But you see, whilst you can never know what happens, you can never predict things. I mean, I've done a talking point before via Zoom, as I'm doing now. Electricity went. There was one particular instance this morning where my laptop even crashed. You can't tell these things. But the whole point is you need to have systems in place to ensure that these things are rectified in the soonest possible manner. I think what really, really bothered people is that 1 minute before was the cutoff time, the lights came back on, and they decided that, okay, we're going to have a 5-over game. It'll restart at 1 minute past 11. Yet all the time prior to this, they were saying it's going to start. The cutoff time was at 10:52. We tried to figure out, wait, where did the additional time come from? They said it was time that we did not initially allocate for the interval. Who is going to accept that?
Yeah.
Who's really going to
No,
accept that?
the thing is, Keaton, yes, I can understand people who are upset about how that was done, because that also seems like it was done to force a result. That said, I'll go back to my previous position. I do think it's fair. I think essentially it would have been worse if the essentially game was decided because Barbados was just not allowed to bat, right? I think, personally, for competitive integrity. With that said, how they handled it does not give them the cover that, well, this was an objective decision based on the rules, and the rules are based on, and I think this goes to the Duckworth method as well, the rules are based on something that was well thought out, that would be not just fair, but also easy enough, not easy, but easy enough for fans to understand, so that the perception of fairness in the game is not harmed. Because big picture now, one of the things that helps drive an economy is various forms of entertainment. And one of the things that can add value to an economy are sports teams. We have the CPL, Caribbean Premier League, am I correct? And when you have situations like this with a sports league, it's one thing if you are the English Premier League or the National Football League of America, or the NBA, right? When you're established for about 100 years, or 60 years, you have traditions, you have franchises valued at $1 billion+. It's one thing when you have that. I don't think we're there yet. This party now starts, and anything to undermine competitive integrity of the league. What would happen to the CPL if one or two of the countries involved now all of a sudden the fan base just says, you know what, to hell with this, because this makes no sense, right? We feel that we're being treated unfairly, and they just tune off.
Well, in that regard, a couple of things to note, right? One, CPL needs to up their game. Next season, they really, really need to up their game. Use this season as a learning opportunity. At this point, that's the only thing that can be done. It's the only thing that can be done. However, the same mistakes or similar mistakes are repeated next season, it's not going to be acceptable. It's already very difficult to digest as is. The umpiring, the decision-making, I don't know, the match officials and the referee, they themselves seem to be very confused. Two, CPL also really needs to up its game. They market themselves as the biggest party in sport, and I love CPL, I love cricket, it's excellent, it's phenomenal. And Sean, let me tell you something. Last week, Friday, a team from WSN actually went down to Brian Lara Cricket Academy. We were present there, and we were actually doing our media rounds. But I have to tell you, what CPL brings out in a nation is absolutely incredible. There's a lot of benefits. But in terms of its generating capacity, it also needs to up its game, because you've got the new league in the United States of America, the Cricket League in the United States of America, that already is starting to encroach on the true potential of the CPL, right? Because of the money and the financing involved. Now, the Caribbean compared to the United States, let's be real. But also, CPL really needs to up their game in respect to franchises. Jamaica actually, I think last year Jamaica actually had a team. Jamaica pulled out. You know, Jamaica doesn't have a team this year because I think the Jamaican government simply said, listen, we're not investing in this anymore. We're focusing on track and field and football, you know. And so Jamaica no longer is a team. It's now come into the form of the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. So I think also the CPL needs to look at the possibility of introducing more teams, possibly next year. Coming back to the whole controversy, and by the way, Sean, it's amazing how we're able to evolve on talking points and actually speak about a topic other than the headaches that is the other headaches that is happening.
The other headaches, yes.
I'll be honest with you, I'm so tired and frustrated of speaking about this budget because it's all the same thing over and over and over again. But coming back to the headache that is the CPL.
A headache to distract you from the budget headache.
Yeah, well, it certainly has served as a distraction to a certain extent. Yeah, but before I push any more conspiracy theories, I really don't like to subscribe to them. You got Thursday in when it comes to playoffs, when it comes to we call them eliminators, we call them qualifiers. I put it this way: it's semi-finals, right? You got Thursday. Today was actually an extra day. You had the eliminator on Tuesday. Last night was qualifier 1, which essentially constituted as the first semi-final. And Friday night is the second semi-final. Tonight, and I'm proposing it. I'm just wondering, why is it that tonight, Thursday, could not have been a rescheduling of the game on Tuesday night? Because momentum going into this game would have probably been the same. It would have probably been the same. TKR might have felt they were at a disadvantage because they were doing pretty well, 168 after 19.1 overs isn't a bad score. I know that they were trying to probably hit about 180 plus, but I'm just saying, they can't even use the argument, oh, well, the scheduling would have allowed for players to have been fatigued, because St. Lucia and Barbados played the same game back to back. On the Saturday, St. Lucia played Barbados, and Barbados lost badly. On the Sunday, St. Lucia played Barbados, and Barbados lost again. So they can't say, oh, it's a conflict, it's going to be exhausting, it's going to be too much on the schedule. No, they've already done that in the league tournament. It should have been something considered, and maybe something to consider going forward.
And the thing is, the consequence of that would have had to have been borne by the teams playing. So, yes, it might have given the opponent down the line an advantage, but at least with regards to Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, their two teams would, the ones who are involved in this unfortunate situation would have been equally having to deal with the adversity. So at least in this part of the question, it would have been on that level fair. One thing I do want to ask, has anyone locally beyond maybe people involved with TKR, have they potentially spoken about this? Because ironically, it's not always a good thing, right? I believe this is a private league. This is not a state-sponsored league, unless or at least...
It's not state-sponsored. It's Cricket West Indies that started this particular initiative 14 years ago. So no, it's not state-sponsored as per se, and all the teams involved in the tournament are privately owned.
The reason why I say that is, even though it's privately owned, has the Ministry of Sport said anything? Because at the end of the day, the importance of sport, private or publicly sponsored, one would think that maybe they might want to be involved to help promote sport and help promote the integrity of sport, or get to the bottom of these things with regards to sport, because I guess, given the fact that we can't necessarily have sporting programs to produce Olympic athletes, at the very least, we could try to deal with our own maybe private interest in sports, because, again, what was to happen if the TKR fans decide we don't want to do anything more with the CPL? Has the minister or the ministry said anything?
I don't think TKR fans are going to go to that extreme. They're very, very upset. And there is a bitter rivalry between Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana when it comes to most things. So even with this happening in Guyana, fueled a lot more of that anger and frustration. The Ministry of Sports, as far as I'm aware, have not made a comment. And I don't necessarily think that they have to make a comment. Most of the commentary has actually come from the journalists. Some of the players as well, like Andrew Russell. I don't know if you saw, Andrew Russell went on social media, expressed his true frustrations. And while some people are saying it's very distasteful that he did that, you can't really take the human aspect out of any player. Yes, these are professionals, but you really can't take the human aspect. The frustration happens, the anger happens. Players need to know a certain point where, okay, they really shouldn't go to that. But it's very difficult to take the human aspect and the emotional aspect. No one has really commented except the journalists. I know Andre Batiste had his opinion. He shared his opinions, and that was circulating as well. And maybe we'll get more commentary from him. If not today, definitely tomorrow on it. But interestingly enough, the other individual, and I had a comment to make on this, was the one and only Gary Griffith. He actually had his 2 cents on this as well, and he shared it. And you know what? I think he was frustrated as well. Gary Griffith very much loves his sport. He's very, very much into his sport. So I guess that really is why he said, you know what, I think I need to make a statement because nobody else is going to do it. So, I mean, Sean, it's, as I said, the tournament goes on, you know, good luck to the guys next year, but TKR also really need to do some examination of themselves. I think if you take a look at the team, really our bowling was not the greatest this year. Our batting at times, there was a heavy reliance. There's been a heavy reliance on Nicholas Pooran. He seems to be the glue that holds the entire batting lineup together. And if he does not perform, you know, not too often do you have other players picking up that slack. Then the opening partnership between Sunil Narine and Jason Roy. How many times are you going to put Sunil Narine to open the batting when he is like 99% is going to get out in the first over of the game? How many times is the coaching staff going to do this? Before they realize, hold up, wait, it's not working, it's failing. How many times are they going to do the same thing over and over again and realize, well, it's not working. We're throwing a dice away, we hope it's going to work. It has not worked. He had a good season in the IPL. Yes, he batted well. But if you realize this man is not clicking, you can't try the same formula. So they really need to focus on their batting lineup. They need to get a more balanced team. And they really also need to get more options in respect to bowling as well. There needs to be a great examination. But Shawn Michael Small, St. Lucia is in the finals on Sunday, and I see a lot of people, inclusive of myself, would like to see St. Lucia win. St. Lucia has made it to the finals before, and the first time they made it to the finals was against the Trinbago Knight Riders. TKR ended up winning that. That was at Brian Lara Cricket Academy, I think 3 years ago. But everybody, I think, would be focusing on St. Lucia. They've been the best team in the tournament. They've been excellent. Their batting has been great. Johnson Charles, who I have called the laziest West Indian cricketer I've seen in quite some time, right? Honestly speaking, really good for straightening. He's clicked. He's on fire. He is power hitting. That ball is going all. He is the most dangerous batsman in the St. Lucia Kings team right now. And I think everybody would like to see St. Lucia win the tournament for the first time.
Back to TKR, we do have a retirement, right? Pollard announced his retirement, I think, last week. Not Pollard, sorry.
Pollard. Yeah, Dwayne Bravo has at that game against Guyana at the Queen's Park Oval. It was his last game. It was a bit confusing. He said this was going to be his last tournament in respect to the CPL. It also ended up being his last tournament overall. You know, so there was a celebration of Dwayne Bravo there. Unfortunately, in the game they were playing St. Lucia last week, Tuesday, which was Republic Day at Brian Lara, he hurt himself. He hurt himself pretty badly. And this is something that's been with Bravo for quite some time.
Yeah.
The man has dedicated his entire life to the sport. His body simply can't take it anymore. Simply cannot handle it. He's got to that point where he's overworked his body. So following that, he announced his full retirement from cricket overall. Like, he wasn't even continuing in the tournament. I think he would have been part of like the coaching staff at that point. But his full retirement, Dwayne Bravo is no longer a cricket player, but need I say, he's going to be a valuable asset to any coaching staff and any team that so desires his presence. And me personally think that he needs to be considered to be part of the West Indian coaching lineup. And even the TKR coaching lineup next season. The TKR coaching and management really needs to do some introspection, but he needs to be included in it. He's too much of a valuable asset with his knowledge and experience.
I'll say this. I think, you know, it's a league that is still in its infancy. I do wonder if one of the things they could learn maybe from the American Major League Baseball and go to series instead of having one-game eliminations, because I get it, there are physical demands of the sport, but sometimes, and again, for the playoffs, for the tournament, for the end, I think you might get a better result if you had maybe a 3-game series or a 5-game series, depending. Financially speaking, there may be benefits to the league as well, having more opportunity, more games to promote and sell advertising and tickets and whatnot. But also,
it's a bit different with cricket, Sean. I don't think that'll work for cricket. I mean, I understand the example, but I don't think that'll work for cricket.
I think it might. I think it might. Give it a chance. I think it might. More importantly, you might have more wiggle room for situations like this because, refereeing will always have controversies. But I think what's really bad and where I understand the players voicing their frustration is when the referees seem to not just make bad decisions, but seem to be uncertain of what to do in the first place. So the foundations of these decisions is highly questionable. And I'll just leave it there. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we open the phone lines. You can call in and talk about the cricket. You can call in and talk about the police. There's more stories about the police that I did not get to. 2 situations in the court that I find was curious. But, of course, there's the whole situation with the budget. The port, they're on strike. I haven't gotten to that story today, but if you want to call in and speak about that, anything to say about issues with getting your stuff off the docks, you can. Stay tuned. This is Talking About the WESN show. Michael Smokey and Shaw. We'll be right back after this.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com. And we're back here on Talk About the WSN, Content Capital Show. Michael Small with his co-host, Mr. Keaton Shah. We just switched gears significantly before the last break, spoke about the controversial end to the TKR season. My concerns, one might ask, why on Talking Point? Well, this could be a major economic asset to the region, and I don't want to see anything that might, cause it any harm. But with that said, we open up the phone lines. We want to hear from you, the viewer. You could call in and have your say. Just please, please, please remember, when you're on the phone with us, mute your television. Mute your television, because callers have been confused by hearing themselves in the TV, but there's a delay, and that's why the conversations at times don't end up very well. Now, with that said, Keaton, while we wait, I wanted to speak about your interview with Mr. Duke, but you said, well, you may have something about the budget, despite the fact that you are frustrated with the budget. It's a very frustrating thing. You might still have more things to vent with regards to what's going on with the budget?
Now, first of all, can I say it's really time to celebrate because we've got the 2 phone lines that are working this morning. So that's great. Well done, TSTC. We thank you for that. But I saw the 2 numbers up on the screen. Hopefully that that stays.
One of them still gives trouble with some callers, right?
I tell you what, the best way to test the phone lines is call in, and hopefully it's working. Let's see how it's going.
We have Faizabad on the line. So, Keaton, you are safe from having to rehash your stress and relive your PTSD, at least for now. Faizabad, good morning, caller, you on the air.
Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Keaton. Good morning to
Good morning. Morning.
Yeah, I think the CPL has reached a stage of maturity, and I think we need to pay more serious attention to it. First, to begin with, I feel the patrons are being hard done. You can't leave Trinidad to fly to Guyana and to see a game determined in 5 overs. Clearly, they must have reserve days for else the patrons are being run clearly. Secondly, they need to have, it mustn't be relying basically on the 3rd umpire, because there was a lot of faux in umpiring decisions that I would have seen in this series of the CPL. They must have a panel of adjudicators, and they must be given a 3-minute time limit so they can come to a determination with respect to not out and out, as of what we saw. That 3rd umpire thing, you know, they seem to be having it wrong most of the time, as I would have looked at it. You've seen wides, you've seen no balls, you've seen bad decisions. Thirdly, I think it's high time that Tobago should make some effort to develop a team so they can be part of the CPL. Okay, my friends, have a good day.
Okay, caller, thank you, caller. Interesting.
We have any more calls?
Yeah, we have San Fernando on the line.
All right.
You can hold.
Respond.
Okay, San Fernando, morning caller, you on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
Do not start another controversy between Trinidad and Guyana. Please, or just stop it.
We didn't start. We didn't do it. We didn't do it.
I know. What I was calling about, Sean and Keaton, do you all know about the Police Service Commission's Public Trust and Confidence Satisfaction Survey in the police service?
Mm-hmm. I actually filled out the survey. At least I think I filled out the survey. I don't know if it's a fake one that I filled out, because it came through due to advertising online.
Yes. So they have employed a media company to get it out there.
Yes.
Especially online. So you would get it. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing and what you're on, it would pop up. It's a pop-up. So, I just wanted to, because I hope a lot of the public gets this, where you could actually go onto the Police Service Commission website and get the survey and fill it out. It ends on the 8th of October.
Yes.
And I would implore the population to actually try and get this survey. And as I said, if you don't get it on a pop-up, you could actually go on the Police Service Commission website and fill it out. And you filled it out, Sean. I filled it out myself. Some of the questions didn't like how they were phrased, but at least there's something out there.
Yes.
For us to make a comment. So that's just all I was going to let you know that, and if you could put it out there to the public, because the 8th of October is the last day for it. Have a good day, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. San Fernando. Yes, when it was announced, I did bring it up and I did mention, I did tell people, listen, it's an avenue to get your opinions on policing heard. Even if they misuse it, that's on them. take the opportunity, but thank you for reminding me because I didn't bring it up since, and I should have.
I would admit that I have not filled out. I'm very much aware of it, but I will admit that I'm one of those who I have not filled it out. But you're Mr. San Fernando working for you. Thank you very much, Mr. San Fernando.
Yes, you know, the government might not be working for you, Trinidad and Tobago, but Mr. San Fernando is working for you.
San Fernando, thank you very much. You're Mr. San Fernando working for you.
Okay, but with regards to the previous caller, as we have a window, Keaton.
Yeah, I like what the caller was saying about the reserve days, something that needs to be explored. If I'm not mistaken, reserve days was something that existed previously. But I don't know what's going on there. In respect to the adjudication panel, I like the idea of a 3-minute window. Now, a football game is different, and there is a lot more revenue involved in a football game. But if you take a look at VAR, you've got one VAR referee, but you've also got referees alongside them assisting in the adjudication of a decision such as that. And that 3-minute window, that's really, really good. Because what happened in that game with St. Kitts and TKR, not only did it take some, but put it this way, Sir Curtly Ambrose, who never has a smile on his face, he was even more enraged. I don't sure if you ever saw Sir Curtly Ambrose. This man doesn't smile. Like, he came out, I don't know, he's like, all you have yamping eye, all you have like, what's going on? And he was frustrated, but we as TKR fans were frustrated as well. They really need to up their game, CPL. They really need to.
The one thing is, with regards to what happened in Guyana, that to me is not necessarily so much an issue of the right process of umpires making decisions, if that's what the caller was talking about.
This came down to the match referee. This came down to the match referee. This came down to the match referee, and the
thing is, a thing like what happened in Guyana, it's about the guidelines that the league sets for the referee, right? Their subjectivity in a situation like this should only go so far. It should only go so far. I'm sorry. They should have clear, well thought out guidelines of how do we treat with situations like this so that, as the caller pointed out, people might have flown to Guyana. We're not just talking about it's a game in our city, in our hometown, in our home island, and we just, we went and we, whatever. No, some people took flights for this, which is true. It happens in sports all around the world. And that's one of the reasons why you have to take it seriously.
And I would stress on the point, if the rules were reversed, and this was Barbados in the position that TKR was in, I would have still had the same opinion. I think it's very, very unfair and very unfortunate. And if it was any other two teams in the tournament I was playing that got to this eliminator, and this is what happened, no, it's ridiculous. It's bad. It's bad.
TKR also needs to maybe review its policies on how stadiums and operations and their partners and the infrastructure for these games. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to never have this again. But you need to have a better response to things like this. Otherwise, your league, as much as the first caller said it's mature, is going to be hard to be taken seriously because you competed against the Premier League, the Bundesliga, the NFL, the NBA for our viewership.
This season just needs to be used as a learning experience. Mistakes happen, but it was just too many mistakes, you know.
We have Diego Martin on the line. Good morning, caller. You on the air? Morning, caller. Caller, good morning. I think
Did I put my mouth? Ooh, did I put my foot? Oh, naughty. The telephone lines not working.
One of the callers from Digger Martin is usually... Caller, you there?
Hello. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I just want to make a comment on the cricket. Yes, I want to make a comment on the cricket.
Go for it, caller. We're listening to you.
I mean, that was a very hard pill to swallow, boy. I mean, I felt it. Boy, I don't know what to say. But the fact is, rules are rules, and you must follow rules. But what I found they should have done if they wanted to have a fairness in the game, when they decided to have the 5 overs, they should have done both sides but 5 overs and give them an equal opportunity. And having just one side but 5 overs to have an advantage over the other side. But definitely once it's like that. One side is going to have the advantage, the one who's batting and giving the amount of overs. But I must say, on behalf of Pollard and the rest of the TKR team, they took it like real gentlemen, except, I don't know, Rossi made some comment, but as a captain, Pollard really is true to a real good captain, and he showed that he deserved every things he deserves in his life to come. So I just want to say that, and gentlemen, you have a good morning, and thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling, caller. Good to hear from you, as always.
Sure, Michael Small, the captaincy and leadership of both Dwayne Bravo and Karen Pollard is phenomenal. It's going to be, no pun intended, very big shoes to fill. But honestly, Karen Pollard is a very competitive player, very, very competitive, and people will get frustrated with his gimmicks at times. But honestly speaking, he did handle it very, very well. He was very much, he showed his true leadership when it came to handling the situation. I know Andrew Russell expressed his frustration. Honestly speaking, again, you really can't remove the human and the emotional aspect of the player. But Karen Pollard, yes, I agree with the caller. And so, it's a good captain. He can frustrate you with his calls sometimes, but he has proven us wrong many times when it comes to, for example, people were frustrated with Terrence Hines. He said, no, I'm sticking with Terrence Hines. Terrence Hines really was the one that pushed TKR to the best in that game on Sunday against Guyana.
Well, the thing is, it's one thing for the captain to be poised, right? Because he's setting the example, he's setting the tone. Here's the thing, if none of the members of the TKR voice frustration, there is a world where some people might wonder, what, they have no passion for the game at all? Right? So it's actually good that, okay, maybe the captain stayed poised and controlled. One of the members kind of vented, maybe, sometimes in a team, one person kind of unofficially vents for everybody. So at least, listen, it's not as though we're just taking this and we're rolling over, and there's no fight in us, right? But we're not going to all go off like wild raving animals and cussing and carrying on. No, one guy is going to vent, he's going to express how upset we are, and then we're going to move on. But make no mistake, it's not as though we agree with what happened and we think it's acceptable. I think we have Faisal on the line back again.
Yeah, Sean and Keaton, morning again.
Morning.
What I wanted to take into consideration, when TKR batted first, they would have set the stage for planning the innings. As opposed to a 5-0 game where you have 10 wickets in hand.
Yeah.
Come and destroy the bowling. So it is unfair either way. Or you look at it, it was very, very unfair to TKR.
Yeah.
While they would have spent time to build an inning and choose certain part of the innings to go explosive. If you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I do feel it.
Yeah, okay, my brother, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it that the caller, because I myself, I'm not big into cricket, but is it that the caller is basically saying, look, the TKR had to plan for 20 overs, right? How to play out 20 overs, whereas Barbados basically, we have 5, or we could just load up our best players to deal with these 5 overs. We don't need to worry about a long game. We just have to sprint. And, that by itself is one way in which they had an advantage over TKR.
Put it this way, when a game comes down to super over, that means at the end of the innings, and all legal deliveries have been bowled, it's tied. It goes down to super over. We didn't have that this tournament. But in the super over, you're only allowed 2 wickets total, right? And only 1 bowler per team. The thing is that I understand where the call is coming from with TKR having to build an innings. They played for 20 overs.
Right.
This is the thing, you never know what could happen in cricket. I mean, if weather, came into effect, DLS would still come into play. Or if weather was so bad and match was abandoned, TKR would have progressed because they finished high in the league table. But at the end of the day, you're right, Cole, you never know what's going to happen. But it was just... TKR were planning to bowl at 20 overs. There was no bad weather on the night. This is what's even more frustrating. DLS didn't come down to bad weather. It came down because the floodlights, well...
just happened. Well, we have Marifal on the line, Keaton. Good morning, caller. You're on there.
Hi, good morning. I was watching the game, and I get so frustrated over that game because we had 5 balls, just 5 balls to play off. Why didn't they let them play it off,
Mm-hmm.
And then you come now, give them 5 overs, 50 balls to make 60 runs. Look at the 2 people that bat in there. Why didn't let Pollard and them play the game? Why didn't you let them play the game? It is so frustrating for Trinidad. Because you know why? Trinidad beat Guyana twice. They beat them down here, they beat them home. And it's you see, it's a sellout game. They sell out the game. I'm sorry. I am a Trinidadian. I love my sports. I love cricket. I love football. Football, when I see Manu doing stupidness, I just call the station if I can't get the station. If I can't get my football, because I usually follow Manu and I follow Madrid. And if you can't get Manu, I just get on my nerves. My sons and them, they say, Mommy, well, it's not the people's fault. It's this, that, and the other. But let me watch my sports, what I play for. Because remember, Trinidadians leave here to go up Guyana to watch the cricket. And they're looking for the support. They're looking for everybody to read the game. Because my whole household sleeping and I costing home here. My son had to go, Mommy, what are you getting on for? What happened? I said, we lose the game. Stephen Guyana win the game.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Thank you, caller. You know, I didn't think about it, but she causes me to ask a question. Why are we forcing two fan bases to travel to watch a game?
No.
I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense to me.
No, it's sure.
No.
England. It happens with football. It happens with European football. That's minor. That's part.
No. I'm sorry. Why are Barbadians and Trinidadians, Trinbagonians having to travel to watch their game in someone else's country? It should have been held.
You're thinking every year there should be a different host nation.
No. As in, if Barbados and Trinidad, is all of the playoffs being held in Guyana? Is that what's
all of the playoffs are being held in Guyana.
Oh, okay.
All of the playoffs are being held in Guyana.
I would have argued that the final game could have a host nation, so it's neutral ground.
Usually, it is neutral ground, sure, Michael Small, because the finals, like any other tournament, is decided before the tournament even kicks off. In this particular case, the finals for the last 3 years, well, this year inclusive, was decided, in advance. It was given to Guyana because I think Guyana offered them the use of the stadium. So just bear in mind. But Kola, I also feel for you. I am a Manchester United fan, so boy, this week was double heartbreak, boy. I mean, mind you, Man United almost every week is heartbreak. I feel you.
The thing is, Keaton, financially speaking, you're forcing two fan bases to travel. You're forcing all the fan bases to travel to Guyana to watch the games.
Wrong with that, boy. Nothing wrong with it. It's the Caribbean Premier League. I mean, if you are saying that every year there should be a different, the regional Super
Not that it should be a different host, but if depending,
the regional
right?
Super is held in one host nation. I think it's next year the regional Super is being held in Trinidad. But that being said, it's because it's franchise cricket, and that's very important to remember. It's franchise cricket. Okay. That's why.
So the NFL, the higher seed, they host the playoff games until the Super Bowl. To me, that would make sense because one would think if, depending on who is the higher seed, Barbados or TKR, right? Well, their fan base gets rewarded. They don't have to fly.
Sure, but fans will still have to travel.
Yes, one fan base will have to travel, not two.
You've got 6 teams in this tournament, sure, Michael Small. You've got 6 fan bases.
No, well, depending, Trinidad versus Barbados would be either in Trinidad or Barbados. Guyana versus St. Lucia will be either St. Lucia or Guyana.
That happened in the league.
Right, but half of the teams for the playoffs won't have to, half of the fan bases won't have to travel until we get to the finals, would be
well, in that particular case, all the playoffs, as we have talked about, is being hosted in Guyana. So everybody go to Guyana for the playoffs.
Yes, so what that tells me is the entire playoffs was at risk for this electrical failure.
Well, it didn't happen last night. It didn't happen last night.
Of course, it did not happen last night, Keaton. Of course.
They learned from the mistakes on the Tuesday night. They learned from the mistakes on the Tuesday, which is good. Kudos to them, because it was very much embarrassing. The president of Guyana was at that game on Tuesday night speaking about Guyana's developments and progress, and bam, lights went out. If you can lend you some tea and tech workers if you want. But as I said, if it happened a second time, embarrassment, we would have had to find a different level of embarrassment to describe it.
I mean, sport in the region, I mean, they take out Jamaica, they're one of the people that's most serious about sport. That's a bad sign already, that they're like, we don't want to be involved.
Jamaica pulled themselves out.
They pulled themselves out, right? Sport in the region, it's already, look, West Indian cricket. I think there's already an uphill battle, but I have seen the success of local leagues. There's a football league in villages in China. It's an amateur league. The players have day jobs, right? Wildly popular amongst the citizens of the villages in the region. It could be so much more. The greatest party, sports party, like it could be so much more if we took our sports seriously and allowed the fan bases to enjoy serious competition. And things like this, they kind of undermine that a little bit. I think
you take our sports seriously. And again, I need to stress mistakes happen, but this season was full of so many mistakes. I really, really hope that, because even with CPL and their communication, the explanation that they released, but cricket fans on a whole of sports in the Caribbean do take it very, very seriously. That's exactly why there's so many opinions.
Keaton, I have a quote from Warren Buffett, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. Just saying. We have last caller from Maraval. Morning caller, you on there? Morning caller?
Hello, me again.
Yes.
Why it is after Nali don't talk, the lights go? Was that a setup for Trinidad to lose? That's what I'm asking. Because if you say you're doing this and doing that, and just after he talked, the lights went off. You tell me you take 2 hours to fix a light for it to come on back for the cricket to go on. That's a sabotage for Trinidad. I'm sorry, it's a sabotage for Trinidad all form of fashion. Bye, thank you again.
Caller?
I love that caller. I'm not caller. I am not subscribing to conspiracy theories, and I really don't want to push any of those things because I really can't prove it.
Well, Keaton, there's another. It could go a different way. One could say someone was sabotaging.
I know why people are frustrated and pushing it. I love that caller though. I really love that caller. I like when people call in and speak their mind, but you know, again, very civilized. It's true. The president spoke and bam, lights went off.
Keaton, well, look and think about it. So the president of Guyana speaks about progress, lights goes out. Maybe he was the target and we are the unfortunate collateral damage in the situation.
Well, quite
you use the CPL. Somebody might want to use the CPL to make the president of Guyana look bad. I don't know. That's it.
Careful, you know, careful. They might explode that. That might be a possibility as well. But you know what, Sean?
I'm trying to follow Mr. Sanfano's advice and remove the controversy a little bit away from Trinidad versus Guyana.
Listen, CPL, we enjoy you. We love you. We like our cricket. Very, very unfortunate, frustrating. It's angering what happened this season. I hope going forward, not only would you do your best to up your game and your protocols, because clearly a lot needs to be done next season. It's not going to be tolerated or accepted. But also in respect to your communication, this release from CPL, still, it does not justify the situation. It does not augur well. And some might argue it really just doesn't make any sense. But at the end of the day, fix yourselves. We like cricket, we like CPL, but come on, man, better than this. CPL is in its 14th year. That is why the caller said it's reached a stage level of maturity. I 100% agree. You can't have these mistakes happening. And also, to Guyana, listen, we still love the competition. We love the rivalry. You know, we do very much appreciate it and like it. That's why that caller was cussing even though her family was asleep. She was cussing. We do like it. But, you know, please make sure that all systems are working. It could malfunction. It happens. I know it could happen. But really, how the circumstances, how everything flowed, how everything followed. Boy, I'm getting a message right now from Sean. I'm getting a message from our director, the controversial one, not the quiet one who sits down and does his job, the controversial one, you know. And he's saying that how the duck curry. I'm not going to say anything else.
Listen, let's not start a chicken curry chicken debate, right? We gotta close the show. Keaton, we gotta close the show. I want to thank all the callers. Keaton, thanks for joining me once again.
Today is a good day to have a good day. Thank you to the caller from Marvel. You really made me laugh this morning. And again, Mr. Stan Fernando, working for you.
Folks, remember your allegiance to the Republic. Stay safe out there. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN